For years, I believed this simple lie, that to get rich as a software engineer, I had to be the best coder in the room. But I was completely wrong. So that's why in this video, I will reveal the one non-technical skill that allowed me to go from a junior developer making low six figures to a manager in under 3 years, and then to building a multi-million-dollar business. And it's also what allowed my students to go from 9-to-5 developers to business owners making multiple six figures in under 6 months. So what is this one skill? Well, I'll give it to you straight. This skill is communication, but not in the way you think. You see, when most developers hear the word communication, they think of clear code comments or daily stand-up meetings. But that's the broken playbook, and it's exactly why so many brilliant developers actually get stuck. They are taught to be builders, not communicators of value. So we're gonna focus on becoming exactly that, communicators of value. And that comes down to 3 business functions that communication really unlocks: translation, sales, and negotiation. But we first have to talk about the high cost of not having these skills. I remember when I was a manager managing a senior dev that was pretty much twice my age. Let's call him Alex for now. And he was one of the smartest people that I ever had the pleasure of meeting. Truly. He was a genius, a true 10x developer, as you might call it. And there wasn't a single technical problem in the company that Alex could not solve. And even his own personal projects were insane. He literally made his own Netflix competitor way before AI was a thing, without wipe coding, so he could enjoy it for a fraction of the price. But here's the crazy part. Despite being at the company for over 20 years, Alex was still only an architect, equivalent to me in the sense of a manager. Why? Because Alex couldn't communicate his value. In meetings, he'd go deep into the technicals because that's what he loved, and you could just see the business leaders staring blankly at their screens. He never once framed any project in terms that the non-technical people understood: how much money it would save, how it would reduce customer churn, or how it would open up a new market opportunity. Alex's story is a perfect example of what I call the caged overachiever. His incredible talent was trapped. He knew his impact was huge, but his career was simply not scalable. He felt his potential was being wasted, and honestly, he was right. And this is the reality for thousands of developers worldwide. Your technical skills are a powerful engine, but communication is the ignition key that actually starts the car. Without it, you're pretty much just sitting in a driveway going nowhere, even if you're in a Ferrari. But the good news is that you can avoid Alex's mistake completely by mastering the first and most fundamental facet of communication. So what is this most fundamental part of communication, you might ask? Well, I call it translation, specifically business translation. It's the ability to translate technical features into tangible business outcomes. Because you have to remember, businesses do not buy your code. They buy the results that your code gets them. So they don't care about your Kubernetes cluster. They care about the website being up during the Black Friday sale. And this is where you have to learn to speak 2 languages. Not Python and JavaScript, but the language of your fellow engineers and the language of the business. To an engineer, you can talk about implementation details. To a CEO, you talk in terms of profit, growth, and risk. So the best tool for this is the so what method. Essentially, it's a simple exercise where you state what you did, then relentlessly ask yourself, so what, until you arrive at an outcome that a business leader actually cares about. So let's walk through an example so you can see how this looks like in practice. Essentially, the bad translation, the one that most engineers would give, would sound something like this: I spent the last 2 weeks refactoring our API authentication services. Your manager is already pretty much bored and sleeping. But let's apply the test to this exact statement. So we start with a technical fact: I refactored our API authentication service. Now we ask, so what? Well, now it uses a more modern security protocol. Okay, that's great. So what? Well, this reduces our risk of a data breach by over 50% and makes us compliant with industry standards. Great, now we just have to push it one level further. So what? That means we can now confidently pursue enterprise clients in the healthcare and finance sectors, which could increase our revenue by 30% next year. You see the difference? We went from a boring technical task to a multi-million-dollar business opportunity. And that's the power of the so what method. That's business translation. So use this framework in your emails, your project proposals, and pretty much in any aspect of your day-to-day job as well as your business. So when you speak the language of business results, you become an indispensable asset. And this is your first real step to having a bigger impact and actually breaking free from that slow, linear career path in your 9 to 5. But being able to translate your work into business value will get you noticed and respected, but it's not the end all be all. If you want to move from being a valuable employee to an indispensable leader, just being understood isn't nearly enough. You have to be persuasive. And that brings us to our second and arguably most powerful aspect of communication. Every single meeting, every single document, and every single PR description is a sale. You're constantly selling your ideas, your timeline, and your vision. Most engineers think that sales is a dirty word, but it's simply the skill of getting buy-in for your ideas. The best ideas don't automatically win. The best communicated ideas win. That's a key differentiator. And sales is the process of building a compelling case for your solution so that others are actually excited to get on board with your idea. A powerful framework for this is the problem, agitate, and solve method. You don't lead with your solution, but rather you lead with pain. Imagine you want to convince your team to adopt a new testing framework. You start by framing the problem and its cost. So our current test suite is flaky and it takes 45 minutes to run. This is costing each developer about 3 hours per week in wasted time. Next, you agitate the pain to make it feel even more real. Across our team of 10 engineers, that's 30 hours a week, which is almost a full-time salary that we're losing every single week just waiting for tests to pass. It's killing our morale. And only then do you proceed to present your solution. I've researched a new framework that runs in under 5 minutes, and adopting it would give our team back hundreds of hours a month to focus on building features that actually drive revenue. So by the time that you present your solution, it's not just an idea anymore. It's the only clear and obvious answer to a painful and expensive problem that you showcased. So when you master the skill of selling your ideas, you can actually take control of your career entirely. You move from an employee who takes Jira tickets to an operator who now shapes the direction of the business entirely. So now, once you get good at selling your ideas internally, the next logical step is to sell a project to an external client. And that's the foundation of pretty much freelancing or starting your own business. But it can be intimidating. The stakes are much higher, and you have to handle everything from finding the opportunity to closing the deal. And that process is exactly why I built my free 55-page playbook. It's a deep dive that walks you through my entire system to ideate, validate, and land your very first paying client. It's the perfect next step if you're serious about this. You can grab it for free at the link in the description below. Okay, so being able to translate and sell your ideas gives you incredible offensive power in your career. We get that. But if you don't have a good defense, you'll burn out before you can truly capitalize on it. That's why this third method is the most crucial skill that protects your time and energy. And this is called negotiation. Now, this isn't just for your salary review. It should be a daily activity. You negotiate project deadlines, technical scope, and access to resources. If you're a poor negotiator, you will get overwhelmed with impossible deadlines and endless feature creep, which just leads to burnout. But if you're a skilled negotiator, you create the space you need to do high quality, sustainable work. The most powerful tool I can give you for negotiation is what I call the trade. The rule is simple. Never give something away without getting something in return. So let me give you a simple script that you can literally use tomorrow. Imagine a manager says to you, we need to get this feature launched 2 weeks earlier. Now, the poor response, the one that we all usually default to when we're put on the spot, is something like, okay, I'm gonna try my best. And with that, you've basically just agreed to work nights and weekends for free because you don't get paid overtime. Now, the good response sounds completely different. And it sounds something like this. Thanks for the context. Hitting that new date is possible, but to make it happen, we'll need to trade it for a reduction in scope on features X and Y, or we'll need an additional engineer on the project. So which of these levers works better for you? Now that response pretty much does 3 things. First, it shows that you're a team player. It clearly states the cost, and also it puts the decision back on them. So you've just reframed the conversation from a demand into a collaborative problem-solving session. And this skill protects your most valuable asset, which is your time energy, and your focus. It's the best defensive layer of communication that actually prevents the corporate world from making you feel like so many others who say, oh, I've been on this hamster wheel my entire life and I simply want out of it. So look, let's be real with each other. The game has completely changed. I mean, you can already tell that. Your code is now the baseline, and the new leverage you have is simply your ability to communicate its value through translation, sales, and negotiation. So stop just being the best coder in the room. I want you to start being the best translator, the best seller of ideas, and the best negotiator in any room you walk into. This is how you go from being a replaceable cog to the owner of the entire machine as a whole. And this is how you escape the golden handcuffs and actually achieve the financial, time, and location freedom and impact that you know you were meant for. Now, these one-on-one communication skills are, of course, the foundation. However, if you want to build a real business, you're gonna need to learn how to apply these same principles at scale. And that's where marketing and distribution come in. I've broken down my entire framework for building a distribution engine from scratch in this video right here. It's the perfect next step to take your skills from one-to-one to one-to-many. So go ahead and click it to watch it now. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good one.